Welcome to the Christian Woman Leadership Podcast, where we hope to inspire you to embrace your God-given gifts, skills, and passions in order to lead with confidence. We want you to remember that you are fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God, and you are fully loved by Him.
You have been designed on purpose by God with unique gifts and passions in order to love and lead those around you. I'm your host, Esther Littlefield, a pastor's wife, business owner, mom, and writer.
And I'm Esther's co-host, Holly Kane. I'm a wife, mom, and business owner. I also write at hollykane.org, where I focus on my passion for women's ministry.
Together, we chat about important issues that Christian women leaders face. In addition, we interview other women just like you who lead in various roles, from church to community to business. Through this podcast, we offer you encouragement, tools, and resources to help you on your leadership journey. We are so glad you're here with us. Welcome to episode 77 of the podcast. Today, I am sitting down with Holly, and we are going to continue our communication series by chatting about social media. Hey, Holly, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, except for the fact that I've been sick, but
I know. Such a bummer.
I know. Yeah. So we are going to talk about social media today, and this is really like a hot topic, and we know it can be tricky to discuss, but we want to share with you some specific ways that you can be a light in a dark world if you choose to use social media. So a couple quick notes, just real quick before we jump in. If you listened to last week's episode, you know that I shared about 3 reasons that you should have the hard conversations as a leader. And I want to encourage you to go back and listen to that if you missed it. And I mentioned in that episode about the mini course that I've been working on, and I had planned to have it ready to go on last Tuesday when the episode came out, but I got really sick over the week of Thanksgiving, and I'm still recovering, as you can hear. So I have not been able to finish the videos as of today. So keep your eyes peeled. If you're on my email list, you will see when that resource is available. But it's going to be hopefully ready any day now, just as soon as I can get those videos done. And I'm really just hoping that my voice is going to hold up for this recording today. So you might hear Holly talk more than me if I can't make it through. So also just stay tuned through to the end of the podcast today so that you can hear about some fun news and about how you can get something free from us. So we're going to share free things. I love free stuff, and I love giving away free stuff. So
yes, agreed.
Yeah. All right. Holly, before we jump into this topic and what we want to share, why don't we just start by telling everybody kind of how we feel about social media in general? Just what are your first thoughts when we talk about social media?
So I think in general is something that I like and enjoy. It I really like its ability to connect people that have been sort of separated or that you would have lost touch with over the years. Like I probably wouldn't have stayed in touch with a lot of the people from like high school or maybe even college in the same ways that I have been able to over social media. So I really enjoy that. And I also like the fact that, it's a platform for people to use to kind of get their message out there. And I think prior to social media, it was a lot more difficult to do that. But I also get really frustrated. And sometimes I have to take breaks because I get thinking nasty thoughts when I scroll through my feed. So I have to take breaks because I get super duper annoyed with people and some of the things that they say and do. So that's my really conflicted feeling about social media. What about you?
Yeah. I would say I have a love-hate relationship with social media as well. I actually have been on social media. Like I've always been an early adopter of this kind of stuff. I just generally, if something comes out that's new, I will check it out. I'll try it out. So, back in the day when we had MySpace.
I was just thinking about MySpace.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Some of you are too young to even know what I'm talking about. But there was MySpace before Facebook. And anyway, I think that it's been something that I have loved in the sense, like you said, connecting with people, um, staying up to date on what's going on in the world, like different things like that. I love. Um, just love the ability to communicate with so many different people using that tool. But I also get really annoyed sometimes, and I feel like I also get kind of. Um, I don't know what the word is, but I think just overwhelmed with the
Mm,
amount of
yeah.
stuff coming at me. Like, sometimes I just get this feeling of, like, everything is coming at me and I just have to get away from it.
Mm,
And so, like you, I probably need to do this more often, but taking breaks or, like, limiting my time on social media has been something I've had to do to keep myself healthy.
yeah.
And, I also sometimes, and we're gonna talk about this a little bit later, but sometimes I've been known to get sucked into the rabbit hole of, like, comments and arguments and things like that, so that's a bad place for me to go when it comes to social media.
See, we're so funny like that because I don't know if you've ever seen the little memes that it's like the person running away and on the bottom it says nope, nope, nope. Like
Yeah,
that's me. I want to run from those things. Not because I'm scared, but I rarely see any good come from it.
yeah,
So,
right,
yeah. But
yeah,
we're going to talk about that.
exactly.
Yeah. So, since we've been in the communication series, we feel like we really can't neglect this topic of social media because it's one of the biggest ways that we are communicating in society today. And as we know, it's sometimes where people get a lot of their information, a lot of their news. And so it's really important for us to broach this topic. So, we're going to talk about some ways that we're using social media currently. So obviously individuals use social media to just stay in touch with family, friends, those type of communications. We're seeing that churches and ministries are able to use social media to communicate with their congregation, as well as the community. It's been really great. I've seen lots of churches use it well and are able to actually invite new people to come to church or ministries, events, those sorts of
Yeah,
things. So it's a great tool that way. And businesses, of course, use social media to communicate and promote their products or services. But I think all of this kind of leads us to the question, how should we as Christian leaders go about using social media? Because again, this is a spot where we can stand out, where we can be salt and light. So one of the things we need to talk about are the risks of using social media and how we can communicate effectively and use our platform to shine online for Jesus.
yeah, yeah. So I think the first thing to remember when we talk about social media is that social media is a tool. It is simply a tool. It can be used positively or negatively. I don't think that social media in and of itself is inherently evil or good. It's kind of like money. It's like it's how you use it that impacts whether or not it's making a difference in a positive way or a negative way. So, before we get into how to use social media effectively, and we're going to be sharing with you 4 tips on how you can use social media effectively as a leader, let's first talk about some of the ways that maybe we're missing the mark as Christians. And Holly and I are going to do our best not to rant in this portion of the podcast. Right, Holly?
Yes, cross my heart and hope to die.
Yes. All
We
right.
are going to certainly try not to sound ranty because
Yeah.
that would just be
It'll kind of defeat the purpose of what we're
yeah,
talking about in
doing the
communicating.
thing we're telling you not to do.
Yes.
Or maybe not telling you, but hoping that you don't do
Yeah.
based on our conversation. So, okay, so let's just jump into how social media is used negatively by Christians or could be used negatively. So, some Christians use social media to announce their disdain for anyone who disagrees with them. Perhaps it's issues like abortion or LGBT issues and so on. There's a ton of them. And I'm going to try not to sound ranty, but this one really gets me.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it pushes people away and it makes the Christian come across as really angry and nasty, and I only see it as doing harm rather than actually pulling people towards you or making your faith look attractive. So
Yeah.
that one really stresses me
Yeah,
out.
it doesn't I never see it when someone posts something like that. It never seems to be pointing people to the love of Jesus. Like it's
No.
just pointing people to here's what's wrong with the world or here's what's wrong with what you believe
Yeah,
and doesn't do anything to invite someone in to the
right.
conversation.
Yeah, it's not an invitation, it's more about being self-righteous, and that
Yeah.
just doesn't look great. So, um and then on the flip side, some Christians will only post Bible verses or faith-based things just all day long. And while this is great, it may make it tough for friends to want to follow them if they're not also Christian and don't ascribe to these beliefs.
Yeah.
It doesn't make them seem like a real person because they're not posting anything real about their life. It's just sort of a lot of it tends to be, Christian fluff rather than even truth that they're
Yeah.
sending out there. And it also kind of exemplifies a shallow faith. So you spend a lot of time posting about faith, but not actually living a deep faith filled life. And I think that perhaps a post about maybe a ministry thing that you're actually doing or, a really great conversation with a friend could be much more beneficial to someone on the outside than, just a fluff cliche.
Yeah.
You know, I believe that God's word does not return void. So obviously putting Bible verses on there is great, but it needs to be backed up by a life that's living those verses.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I also have seen some Christians using social media to promote their business like it's going out of style, just constantly posting and pushing people, pushing their business or their products or services. And again, this can push people away. And again, not necessarily from Jesus, but from even just wanting to interact with you as a person. So that
Right.
reduces your opportunity for sharing the gospel because you've spent so much time promoting your business that people don't even get the chance to hear about what you believe or what your faith can, what faith can do in their life. So, another way that sometimes social media is misused is that Christians can get caught up in arguments on social media. So, we kind of alluded to that earlier. And I've seen people who just constantly post about controversial issues. It's almost like if we are not having an argument, then life can't go on. And I'm always going to post about these controversial things or just always getting sucked into the comment section of the controversial articles,
Yep.
arguing with other believers. I mean, it's amazing how much negativity can happen in arguments between people who
Mm,
all claim to share the same faith.
yeah.
And then even worse, well, I don't know which is worse, but also bad is when you're getting caught up in arguing with non-believers and you're
Yeah.
trying to go back and forth and it's just a constant back and forth and like you said, almost never do we see something positive come out of those conversations. And again, this can make us look angry or hateful if you're not wise in how you go about engaging in those discussions.
Mhm.
So, we're going to talk again later. We're going to give you tips on how to kind of do this in a
Right.
much better way. But these are the ways we're seeing it misused.
Right. Because we're not in any way suggesting that you should shy away from hard things,
Yeah.
but, you
Yeah.
know,
That's been kind of the theme of this
yeah.
series is like,
But you need to
have,
do it well
yeah.
because our goal is to get people more interested in our faith rather than push them away. So,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. So some Christians use social media only to post the best and most positive highlight reels. They never really post anything that's true or real or authentic. And so this can lead to a lot of pride or comparison and again it doesn't seem authentic. And one of the other outcomes is that people might really feel like, "Oh, I really need to clean up my act before I come to Jesus." Like I obviously don't fit. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've heard lots of people say, "Well, if I walk through the doors of that church, it's going to fall on me." Like and so a lot of these posts or highlight reels really only enforce that idea
Yeah.
rather than, showing truly, our struggles and things that we go through, not just the highlight reel, like the ups and downs. So I think that's important to mention. Some Christians use social media to share prayer requests. I hope you can hear my air quotes there, and other things that are actually just gossip.
Oh, goodness.
So, this one just gets me. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with if a friend says, "Hey, can you, ask your followers or whatever to pray for me?" When it's done right and done appropriately, then perhaps. But if it's just gossip, then it's not healthy and it's not biblical. So
Yeah.
that's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
And then one that really I see a lot is they just repost quotes or memes or posts that perpetuate social morals rather than the truth. And they can be misleading and confusing compared with the verses in other posts. So, this is really about um, checking what you're reposting or what you're resharing or retweeting to make sure that it lines up with the gospel, because there are a lot of social cliches out there that sound like the truth, but they really are not. There's a little bit of truth mixed in there to get you tripped up. And the last thing we want to be doing is perpetuating those sort of mistruths or things that can make people stumble even that much more. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Kind of along the same lines, one more thing that I'll mention that happens that I see is people sharing misinformation. So, you find an article, you stumble across an article that really kind of supports a standpoint that you have on an issue in society or whatever, and you just go ahead and share it. And like you said, you don't fact check, you don't actually go to the source of the article, and maybe you don't even read the full article, you just see the headline and share it.
mm,
And unfortunately, in a lot of these situations, it's like that isn't necessarily accurate information that's being shared.
right.
And that one is definitely a pet peeve of mine, like spreading misinformation. I'm just, it drives me insane. So not good. Uh, and again, that kind of takes away your credibility. I think
Yeah.
as a Christian, if you're sharing stuff like that and you're constantly just doing that reshare, whether it's like what you were saying, just the memes and the quotes, or it's articles that may or may not be true, it takes away your credibility. And
Yeah.
people are going to have a harder time taking what you say seriously if that's all you do. So,
Right. Agreed.
yeah. Okay. One more risk that we will mention. This isn't really necessarily something that we see Christians doing wrong, but it's just a risk of social media is that it's really hard to understand tone and meaning
Mm,
through the written word, through
yeah.
text. So, when you're in person or when you're listening to this podcast, you can hear Holly and I, you can hear our tone of voice. You can hear my scratchy, raspy, sick voice. But you can hear when we get excited, when we get kind
Mhm.
of more somber. That all goes into the way that we receive and give communication. But in the written word, as you know, if you've done any research on this at all, you know that written word is void of the tone and any body language or anything else that we use to filter what is being said. So
Yeah.
the fact is, when you're reading something online or when your followers, your friends are reading what you have written online, they're going to be receiving it with the filter that they've already kind of formulated in their own mind based on their own current perspective, their own current mood, whatever it might be. So, all of that to be said, like when you're reading things on social media or when you're posting things on social media, you kind of have to keep that in mind that the way someone perceives what you are saying might be totally different than what your intention was.
Mm.
So, just like that is kind of a caveat and a risk of using social media.
Yeah, and I think that if you've ever sent an email that's been misconstrued, you you know what we're talking about because I have, and it is terrible. It's awful, and you're like, "That's not at all what I meant." But then after rereading it through the filter that the person is telling you that they heard it through or read it through, you're like, "Oh, I can see why that was like that." But in the intention of the email, that's not what you meant. So,
Yeah.
you don't have to do too much research to know that that is the case because that's happened to me before. So, after all the things that we've talked about, all of the pitfalls, all of the negative things, should Christians really even use social media. I mean, maybe we should just abandon it altogether because of all the issues. Or maybe not.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna say we shouldn't.
Okay.
That's my standpoint.
I
I
agree with you, actually.
So here's what we believe. As Christian leaders, we have a great resource at our fingertips. People are on social media every single day. I
Mhm.
think it's something like 70% of Americans have a Facebook account. So like that's a huge percentage of the population that we have the ability to interact with. And we have the opportunity to influence people in a positive way on social media. So if you choose not to use social media, no judgment on you. You know, that's entirely up to you. And I know there are some people who say, I'm just going to stay off of it because
Mhm.
of the negative influence it has and things like that. But if you do choose to use it, we're going to go into, like I said before, 4 reasons or 4 ways to use social media
Yeah.
effectively as a Christian and specifically as a Christian leader. So let's jump into those.
So, number one, and this is like, I'm really glad this one's mine because it's just be a real person. Act the same way online as you would in real life. Share all the real parts of your life and not just the highlights. So, in my real life, not everything is perfect all the time. And that's not what my social media feed is going to reflect. At the same time, I'm not going to share the worst things that happen most of the time because those things are for my closest friends and family. I'm also not going to constantly post Bible verses and inspirational quotes because there's definitely more to my life than that. Be a real person just like you would if you were in person with the group. You wouldn't walk into a group and just pass out Bible verses and not talk to anybody about what's really going on in your life. So, we want to maybe mix some real life stuff in with people that people can relate to. It would be really awkward if you just started passing out like cards and not saying hello and hi
Yeah.
and looking people in the eye.
Yeah.
So it's very similar. Do the same things that you would do in public in real relationships.
Yeah. And I would say, I think, Holly, you do a really good job of that on
Oh,
social
good.
media.
Thank
I
you.
think you do. Like, I think that's something that, I mean, we've talked about this before, but something that those of us who are friends with you in real life appreciate
Oh,
about you the most is how authentic you are, but you do that on social media too.
oh,
And
good.
so,
Thank you.
yeah, and I think it just, again, it goes back to making you a relatable person. Like if someone who's following you, who's a friend of yours, who's not a Christian, sees you post
Mhm.
something about a struggle you're having, or, you know, like when your father passed away, like that
Yeah.
really difficult time in your life, but you posted about it, but you also shared the hope that you have in Jesus and how
Yeah.
he was sustaining you through that. I mean, that makes it really hard to say, well, she's just a crazy Bible thumping Christian,
Yeah.
because like, no, you were actually saying, this is really hard. This is a difficult season, but I still have hope, you know? So it makes
And
it
I
relatable.
think I think people can spot a fake a mile away, and unfortunately, when we only post those highlight reels, we come off as a fake, when in fact, we may just I've heard a lot of people say, "Well, why would I wanna post any of the bad stuff? I just wanna put out positivity." And I get that, but at the same time, people are going through real struggles, and they feel like they're the only one who is. And so when they see other people going through the same struggles, but they have a hope or they have something that gets them through that, they need to hear that. And so I understand only wanting to post positive things or your pretty house or whatever, but at the same time, like, people really need that true authentic hope that you
Yeah.
have. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. All right. So the second tip is remember that people are watching. So I'm
Not
not
Big
saying,
Brother.
oh, yeah, well, that is happening too. I mean, I am a firm believer that if you're going to be on Facebook or social media, you should basically acknowledge that nothing is truly private. Like,
Oh, no.
okay, if you want something really private, don't post it on Facebook,
Mhm.
even in a
Yep,
private group. Okay.
yep.
But what I mean by this is that, you know, there are people who are connected to you who are not believers or who are younger in their faith there could be members of your family, members of your community, your church, your friends, and they see what you post. I mean, some of the time, right? Like they don't see everything you post because of the algorithms, but
The big
but
bad algorithm.
yeah, it's supposed to help you people. It's supposed to help us. All right.
Okay.
But everything you post is an opportunity to influence someone. Again, either for good or bad. And so again, I'm not saying to only post positive stuff because that goes against what we just said, but it's a kind of about the lens that you post it through, and how can you be thinking about if someone reads this and they don't have faith or they don't have um as much of a mature faith as I have, how is this going to impact them? Is this going to influence them and make them think, oh, I want to know more about that? Or, oh, I want to go deeper in my faith? Or is it going to make them feel like, oh, this is not for me? So thinking about the fact that people are watching. And so what you post on social media is part of your leadership. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of the point of this episode is to think about social media and the way you use it as part of how you can lead others in your life. And it includes not just how you post, but how you respond to what other people post as well.
Mm. And I think sort of the crux of this idea is it's about relationship over being right. So it's not about compromising truth or shying away from hard things as we've talked about, but it's about preserving relationships. There are still ways to tell the truth and to confront societal things that need to be confronted while still being respectful and loving and gracious. And we know even from that, even after you've done all that, not everyone is still going to like you, but it's about honoring and respecting your audience while still remaining faithful to the truth. And I think that those two things can coexist. I think a lot of people feel like they can't. They either have to be super truthful and maybe nasty, or they can be super kind and just kind of gloss over the truth and not really address it. So
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you, and Esther's here to tell you that it can be done. You can do both things. So,
Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite examples of this is Elisa Childers. And she was going to be a guest on the podcast in December, but
aw.
unfortunately, we had to reschedule the recording. But I'm hoping to still get her on in the future. But she has done such an amazing job. And if you follow her Facebook page, you'll see this of really still talking about the hard issues, but engaging with people who disagree with her in such a respectful way. And like you said, it's really about remembering the person over the issue,
Yeah.
and thinking
Yeah.
about that person. And we talked about this when we talked with Angela Sackett about the fact that, when you're having one of these hard conversations online, like remembering that the person on the other side of the screen is a real person and they
Yeah.
really they are loved by Jesus just as much as you are. So when you keep that in mind, you're going to be kind because you're going to treat them the way that you would want to be treated, or the way that if you think about them as being loved by God, like that should impact the way that you treat them.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
Another thing to keep in mind, and this kind of goes back to the whole idea of like the text issue, is don't say something to someone on social media that you wouldn't say if you were face to face with them.
Yep.
That's always a good test for me when I go to comment is, wait a minute, if I was sitting across the table from this person and having coffee with them, would I say what I'm about to type?
Mhm.
Delete, 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 delete. uh,
I
that's a
may have
good,
done that a few times.
yeah. All right. So, tip number 3 is keep the direct promotion of business. And I'm also going to say faith to a minimum. Now, let me explain what I mean by that because
Yeah,
that
before
sounds
you
really.
switch it off, let us explain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't turn off the podcast. Okay.
Yeah.
So, when I meet a group of people, like I attend a networking meeting or I go to a party of some sort, I generally don't go in and announce to everyone that they should be a customer or a client of my business. I
Mhm.
don't say that first thing. And I also don't go in and start preaching to them and telling everybody you got to start following Jesus cuz he's so awesome. Of course, it is true. Jesus is awesome, and I want other people to follow him and to know him. But what you have to keep in mind on social media is it needs to be done in a way, just like in real life, that would be natural to you and doesn't cause someone to just run for the hills. So we're not saying to not talk about your faith. Of course, talk about your faith, but can you do so in a way that incorporates it into your everyday life? Just like what we kind of were referring to earlier, like when you're sharing about a difficult time in your life, maybe also sharing about how your faith in God is getting you through that time. So inviting people into the conversation, or at least, ha- i- intriguing them or inviting them to be curious about your faith rather than just alienating them or pushing them away.
Mm,
I will say I don't do this perfectly. I have definitely made a lot of mistakes, especially when it comes to business. So now we're going to kind of switch to talking about the whole idea of not promoting your business all the time. I do think there's a real risk when it comes to those of us who have businesses, especially if you maybe are in the world of direct sales or network marketing.
mm,
So let's kind of talk about that for a minute. It's definitely related. It may not impact you directly, but you probably know someone who has a business of some sort that they share about on their social media.
yeah.
So, Holly, what
So
do you think about this?
we think that there's a way to build your business online without actually turning people off. So if you only ever talk about how great your product or service is, people are going to get annoyed and they might stay friends with you, but they might unfollow you. And even if they don't unfollow you, anytime they see your posts, their brain is going to shut off. So you want to sort of ask yourself whether you're talking more about your business than about your faith, or are you promoting your product more than you're pointing people to Jesus? And so this we're going to talk about Esther's going to talk about, how often maybe you should post about these things, but you really want to check yourself and see what's the motive behind what I'm posting. Am I posting so that I can get customers? Am I posting so that I can get converts? Or am I posting so that I can be a real person and invite people into the really amazing relationship that I have with Jesus? And if they so choose to take part in your business, great.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I think this is really a sticky topic, and I don't
Yeah,
want to say like that we have the perfect solution for everyone.
right,
And I also want you to keep in mind that when you're scrolling through your feed, you are not seeing everything that all of your friends post. So like
right.
if you happen to see your friend post and the three posts that you see are business related, that might not be their three most recent posts.
This is true.
It might be the 3 posts that have gotten the most engagement, which is why they're popping up in your feed. So just like also this is take this all with a grain of salt and know that there's grace here and that we're all learning and growing on this
Yeah.
journey. But, one thing to keep in the back of your mind is your passion for your business overshadowing your passion for God? And again, this is an area for discernment and wisdom, and just look for people who are doing this well, who are both growing a business but also pursuing their faith and their leadership well, and maybe don't necessarily do everything that you're being taught by your company or your upline, because I think sometimes those things might be coming from people that aren't coming from our faith perspective.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I see a lot of things being taught online that are really, really not best practices. Um, so, like for example, joining a bunch of groups and going into the group and immediately posting about your business, not a good idea. Like
Right.
don't do that. Okay? Do not add me to your group to sell me your products unless I want to be in your group. Also,
Right.
okay.
Okay.
I'm not gonna rant. All right.
Move along.
A few guidelines, and I'm going to share this based on my 13 plus years of experience in having a business of some kind. Okay. I've had direct sales business. I've also had my own business. So, I've done this for a little while. So, generally speaking, and this is not just my stat, this is like coming from some of the best experts, social media should be about 80% personal and 20% business. So if you post once a day, then maybe only one of your posts throughout the week should relate to your business. Um, just kind of use that gauge as like a general idea. So if you're posting every single time you post something about your business or your products, like Holly said, people are going to get annoyed. They're going to
Mhm.
have the eye roll emoji going on in their head, and or they're going to click the unfollow button. Talk about your stuff organically, just like you would with a conversation with a friend, not a constant sales pitch. Like if I get together with Holly and I have this new product that I'm using, I mean, I might tell her about it, but hopefully, I'm not gonna just like constantly sales pitch her every time I see her. She might not want to hang out with me that much anymore. So don't add people to your business related group without asking them. Oh, I already said that one. But hey, there's one of my tips. Like, yes, don't add people to groups or um invite them to like your page the instant you become friends with them. Like that's happened to me recently.
Mhm.
I
Me
get a friend request from someone, I accept it because okay, it looks like we have some friends in common. I use my Facebook page for business, so I accept friend requests from people that I don't always necessarily know in real life. But then immediately I get an invitation to like their page and I'm like, I don't even know you and I don't even know what your page is about. Let's get to know each other first. Let's develop a friendship. How about you comment on some of my stuff before you invite me or add me to your group? Okay. And then my last tip is don't beg for sales. This just looks really, really bad and unfortunately can just again push people away. If you're like, I need $300 more in orders before the end of the month so that I can meet my goal, that just comes across as kind of desperate. And I think again, there's better ways to go about it that are gonna yield much better results.
All right, number 4. So we think that you can view social media as a ministry opportunity. Some of us really feel like we're not able to do a ministry in the way that we would like to do one because of time or other constraints. Maybe it's familial situations or circumstances. But we really feel like we can view our time on social media as a ministry opportunity. Again, this really doesn't mean that we're going to be posting sermons and faith posts 24/7, but it means that we will look for opportunities to share Jesus authentically. So maybe it's a person who posted about a recent diagnosis that they or their family member has had, or perhaps it's a neighbor whose mother passed away. You might notice a member of your small group has withdrawn from coming to church and hasn't posted on social media, and it seems like they might be isolating. This would be a really good chance to reach out.
Yeah. One of our listeners does this in such an amazing way, and I want to shout her
Yes,
out.
she does. Yes, she does.
Yeah. Her name is Marian Syverson, and she is a member of our Facebook group and a friend in real life. But she is constantly using social media to encourage others. And it's such a blessing to me every time she comments on something of mine and even just does the heart emoji or, says she's praying for me or whatever it is.
Mhm.
It is so encouraging. And it inspires me to try and do more of that for other people because I see how she is a light online, like she is a
Yep.
light to other people. So,
Yes, I personally have been affected so positively by how Marian does this because ever since my dad has been sick, she posts, I think, on my page almost every day with, a little heart emoji or X's and O's. And I know that that means that she's praying for me.
yeah,
And because I've seen the example of what she's like on her page. I
yeah,
know that that means that she's praying for me. We actually don't know each other super well in real life. We may have met a couple of times, but she has been um I feel like one of the really faithful people who's been praying for me since my dad passed away. And
yeah.
so that has been a huge thing to me. And you know what? I'm realizing as I'm saying this that I haven't even said that to her. So I
She's
probably should Facebook message her, but I think she's going to listen to this episode.
yeah, yeah. And I'll just do one more shout out since we're shouting her out is that
Mhm.
she just launched a podcast called
Yay, that's right.
Money It's called Money, Motivation, and Motherhood.
Mm.
So I'll try to link that up in the show notes if you are interested in learning more about making money cozy, as she says, and
Yeah.
not scary, then you're gonna wanna take a listen to that. So,
Yeah.
and I'll just mention one more example of this. Like, I know specifically in my own life, I have a few friends that I've met at different jobs that I've had or things like that, that I know that they're not a believer. And I have been able to maintain kind of a connection with them on social media, and and sometimes it turns into a private message where I can just tell them I'm praying for them about something I saw. And
Mhm.
again, I don't know how much of an impact it's making, but my prayer is always that I am showing them the love of Jesus, and my hope is that eventually it will open up a conversation for more. So I think that if you view social media as a ministry, it might change the way that you go about your posts and your commenting.
Yeah. So if that's the lens that you're using to view your social media presence, then when you see a controversial topic, you may want to comment on it. And maybe that's the time for you to stop and think and pray first and ask for wisdom. And maybe you want to think through how you are going to respond in a way that's loving and kind, even if you don't agree. And we talked about this with Angela Sackett on episode 75. So if you haven't listened to that one, pop on over there. It's a really great episode. So, yes, maybe sometimes we even tackle the hard topics or bringing them up for discussions. But is there a way to do this that invites conversation and engagement rather than shutting down anyone who disagrees? Um, there's no point in bringing up a topic if you're only interested in having a one-sided discussion about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you just want to preach something, then maybe that's not the place for it. If you actually want to have an engaged conversation that invites people in.
Yeah.
So oftentimes we see Christians posting things that just imply that anyone who disagrees with them is crazy. Oh my gosh, that's one of my huge pet peeves. And this attitude and language, these words are not helpful at all. They alienate people and isolate people.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to give you a few examples of language that is not effective when communicating on social media. And this is all under the umbrella of using social media as a ministry.
Yeah,
So things like, I can't believe someone would agree with this, dot, 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 fill
right.
in the blank.
Mhm.
Or our country is doomed with this leader or that other leader. Those people don't have a clue. I
Mhm.
could never be friends with someone who thinks, dot, dot,
Oh,
dot.
that last one.
Yeah.
Just
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I've seen that so many times lately.
And so the challenge here is like we're not saying that there is not clear right and wrong and that there's not black and white and that
Mhm.
there's not truth. There absolutely is. But when we say these types of things, when we use this kind of terminology, we are pushing people away. If they don't agree with us on that topic, now they're like, I can't even have a conversation with you because you think I am completely wrong and have
Right.
no thinking ability, right? And of course, it's not just Christians who post these kinds of things. Like, definitely not.
Yeah.
But as Christians, I think we're called to a higher standard in terms of how we communicate,
Mhm.
and how we disagree matters. The way that we phrase and talk about the things that we disagree about, it matters. So instead, what if we said something like this? I'm really wrestling with this topic and I'm trying to understand the reason for fill in the blank. If you agree with fill in the blank, could you let me know why? So now instead of making a blanket statement of, I'm right and you're wrong, you're actually inviting someone in to share their perspective. So a second way that you might phrase it is, here's what I believe and why. If you have a different perspective, are you willing to share? So again, that is much more inviting than the kind of I'm right, you're wrong, standoffish kind of conversation. So, the way we word things and the way we engage in conversations online can be used as a ministry, but we must go about remembering that people with whom we have contact are loved by Jesus and that he wants to be in a relationship with them. So, our
Mhm.
job as leaders online is to invite people into that conversation and engage them so that they hopefully can get closer to knowing him.
Right. And I think sometimes those comments, like I could never be friends with this person, or I can't believe someone would agree with this, comes from the expectation that everyone has the same set of morals and everyone is guided by the same sort of principles that we're guided by. And that's not true. We know for a fact that when people are not in an active relationship with Jesus, or they haven't become saved, they have blinders on. It's hard for them to see the truth. And so we're expecting them to come to these same conclusions as us when they don't even have the opportunity necessarily to do that. Yes, there are some non Christians who agree with us, and that's fine, but it's not probably because of, a spiritual moral compass that is, really embedded with the Holy Spirit or the Bible. It's probably just, the way that they were taught or grown up, or how they framed their sort of ideals. So let's just remember that we can't expect people to come to the same conclusions as us if they don't, have the same faith as us. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just want to say that.
Yeah. No, good. It's good.
But I think it's possible that even if we do all these things well, we're still going to offend people and we're still going to turn them off. And that's because Jesus is offensive. He told us that, you know, he had trouble in this world and that we are going to have trouble in this world. So, um, to wrap up, I think we really believe that Christian leaders have an opportunity to use social media and lead and influence others. And we really feel like it's a tool that we have at our fingertips. And if we use it wisely, we can make a big impact on the world around us. And if we use it poorly, we will continue to push people away from Christ. And I'll even go as far as to say, we will also make a big impact on the world around us, but just not in the way that we would want to. So let's recap the 4 ways that we can use social media effectively. So, number one is just to be a real person, be who you are on social media, the same as you would be in real life. How you would have a conversation with a real person, how would introduce yourself? Or would you, throw your business card in their face? Or, a Bible verse. No,
Hopefully
we
not.
want you to be real. Number two is remember that people are watching, people you don't even know, and people who are watching you from afar and seeing how you handle things and how you go about things. Number three is keep direct promotion to a minimum. As we said, social media is supposed to be primarily personal and not business or otherwise. So just remember that people want to see you. They don't necessarily want to see the product. We want you to move the product away from your face and let them see your face. So
Yeah.
number four is view social as a ministry. This is a way that we can impact people positively for Jesus and a way that they can see our real, true life struggles and the things that he helps us get through. And so use social media in that way. Um, and I think that these are really great guiding principles. And I think that if we remember that we are leaders online as well, then our view will change about how we use it. And that, if we are truly looking to impact people for Christ, for the kingdom, then, these are really great ways to do that.
Mm.
We hope that you've enjoyed our conversation today, and we would love to have your thoughts on all these topics because we've talked about some really controversial things. Lots of people have different thoughts than we do. So we want you to come into our Facebook group. It's called Purposeful Leadership. So just head on over there and ask to join, and then come into the group and tell us what you think, because who knows, you may have a totally different opinion on all of this
Yeah.
stuff than we do.
But don't come in and tell us all about your business first thing.
And make sure you do it nicely. And on the post that we're talking about this.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I will just say too, like in our group, I do want people to have the chance. Like I know there's a lot of women
Yeah.
who listen who do have a business, and I'm not against it. Obviously, I have a business too. Like
Right.
a lot of us are multi-passionate. We have a lot of things going
Mhm.
on. And so to be able to share about your business or your ministry is important. So we do provide opportunities for people to do that
Yes,
in the
we
group.
do.
And I think like just like anything, like just follow the group guidelines and you're gonna make out a lot better than if you just go and kind of do your own thing. So
Yeah. Agreed.
all right. So I mentioned at the beginning that we were going to share some fun news at the end. So here are two things that are fun that are happening in the month of December. First thing is that we are really close to hitting 100,000 downloads for the podcast, which is so crazy.
So
It's so
exciting. Thank
exciting.
you, everyone.
Yes, we so appreciate each and every one of you who have downloaded this podcast and listened. Even more, those of you who have shared it with friends. So please keep sharing. When we hit 100,000 downloads, I will be doing something really special. And so you need to be following my Facebook page. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but you need to be
Ooh, I don't
following.
even think I know what
No,
it
I haven't
is.
even told you.
No. It was so exciting.
So you should be following my Facebook page, which I'll link up in the show notes for this episode. Make sure you're following there because that's probably where I will post about it when we hit that, which I'm hoping it's going to be in the month of December. Okay. And then the second big thing is that we are really close to having 100 ratings on Apple Podcasts,
Ooh.
and pretty close to having 50 reviews. So you can get a free podcast sticker from us if you will just write a review for the podcast. So for details on how to get the sticker sent to you in the mail, then you're going to go to the show notes for this episode, estherlittlefield.com/episode 77, and get all the details there. And it's super easy. Just write a review. You're going to email it to me and I'm going to send you a sticker. So, but yeah, check it out in the show notes.
You guys, these stickers are really great. You do want one.
Yeah. They're not just like a chintzy, like,
No.
They're a nice high quality sticker.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah.
I like stickers. It's so fun. Oh my goodness. I have one right here on my computer.
You can put it, I was just going to say, you can put it on your computer. You can put it on your notebook.
Yeah.
You can put it on the bottom of your skateboard.
Oh.
You could.
If you're listening to this podcast and you have a skateboard, send me a message. I will send you a sticker.
You want to know who does have a skateboard? Who has been a guest on here in the past?
Oh, wait. I don't know. Who?
Tabitha.
Oh, Tabitha Bigby. She was great.
Tabitha longboards.
Oh, my
and
word.
She's a ballerina and she's all these other things. So this is my shout out to Tabitha. Please put our sticker on the bottom of your board. I don't know whether or not you put stickers on your board or not, but we want ours on there too, if you do.
That's awesome. All right,
okay,
we better wrap up.
Sorry. Okay. Was that everything you wanted to say?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, so let's do our fun question then. Okay, so okay. All right, we're going to do it this way.
Do it.
Okay.
Go for it.
So if you had to be trapped in a Christmas movie, which one would you choose?
Okay. So I am going to say Elf. And I just
was really a dilemma for you.
It was a dilemma. And I actually just thought of one more in my head when I said that, but I'm going to stick with Elf. I don't know. It sounds fun to go to the North Pole and be at Santa's workshop and all of that, but also to go to New York City and go on an adventure. I feel like it would be fun. And plus there was a lot of eating of candy in that movie, which sounds fun too. So
then I have a question for you. When you're envisioning yourself in this movie, are you the main character?
No.
Okay. You're just sort of a side person.
I'm a observer on the side.
Oh, okay.
Seeing everything happen. Oh, but I would do one thing. When they sing at the end and they're singing the song, you know how the mother sings and it drives my husband crazy. He can't stand her voice. So I would probably make her not sing and make someone else sing instead.
You would just like come next to her and be like, shh.
It's okay. You can sing. You can sing quietly.
You can sing in your heart.
Santa's sleigh will still take off even if you just believe in your heart. Oh, goodness. This is not where you get your theology from, friends.
Yeah, no, these questions are not
No.
theologically based.
No. All right. What about you? What would you be trapped in?
Okay, I have a totally different take on this question. So, and probably if you love this movie, you're going to be mad at me because anyway, you'll understand. So, if I had to be trapped in a Christmas movie, it would be Home Alone.
Okay.
Because that movie stresses me out so much. I love it. I really do. But I really just want to go into that family and like smack people and say, stop being so nasty to this kid. I know he's annoying and I know that he deserves it, but like, oh, it stresses me out that they forget him. How could you forget him? Like,
How
I
can
just
you
can't.
leave him in the attic all night? Like,
Right. Yes.
It's a lot of things in that movie are very unrealistic. We already established that when we talked about this before we started recording.
Yes. But if I did that, then there would be no premise to the movie and the movie would just go away. So I understand why no one would want me to do that. But the whole first, what is it, like 20 minutes of the movie or so before they actually take off and leave him, it's painful for me. Like
I do not like the big brother. Like he is so mean. And then
which just means that all of these people play their roles super duper well because we are feeling the things we're supposed to feel, but I really need to go in there and like, oh, I just can't. Anyway, okay.
Okay, so switching to a different, we're going to do 2 questions. We're doubling up this time.
Yeah.
What is your favorite Christmas movie?
Oh, favorite Christmas movie of all time and times. All of history is, other than the Christmas Story, like Jesus being born.
Oh, but that's
Well, since I said all times,
okay.
I had to say that because that really truly is my favorite. But my favorite Christmas movie is Charlie Brown Christmas.
Okay.
That, oh my gosh, I love all of the Peanuts movies, all of them, even the like super obscure ones. I just really, really love them. So, that is the highlight. And although we own it, I always try and find it on TV because for whatever reason, it's so much more exciting when I have finally found it wherever it's playing and whenever the time is, and we just watch it in real time. Even though I could pop it in at any time of the year. Well, I know that's weird.
And I just love that like they're actually quoting scripture in that movie. And it's so cool that it does get played on regular television every year. Because it's the real Christmas story. So it's awesome. Yeah.
And I love the tin trees. Like they go to the tree yard and they're like all made of metal and it's just hysterical. I just love that.
I love how the little horrible tree that Charlie Brown gets like just transforms into this magical, beautiful tree at the end.
I know it can't even hold one ornament, but at the end it's like covered in all of
it's like a perfect tree.
It's their love that made the tree grow
into
what it wanted to be.
Yeah. All right. Well, you chose a more spiritual answer than I did. So,
well, I wish that I could say it's for spiritual reasons. I just really love the Peanuts, like all of them.
Okay.
I mean, I like it that the Christmas Story is in there, but
I gotta say though, the Thanksgiving one is not that great.
Oh my word, the Thanksgiving one is hysterical.
Oh, okay. Well, all right, we disagree.
My son Eli wants to have popcorn and toast and jelly beans some year for Thanksgiving because of that movie. It's so boring.
It's really boring.
But I just love those movies. So
oh my word.
To me, I'm just like, yes, let's do this.
All right.
Okay,
so
go ahead.
If anybody's still listening, my favorite Christmas movie
Thank you for sticking with us.
I actually really love A Christmas Story, like the movie A Christmas Story, which is very inappropriate in some ways, but it's hilarious. It's just so hilarious. And I know like half of you are going to be like, oh my word, Esther, I hate that movie. And then the other half are going to be like, yes. I feel like there's a strong divide on whether you love or hate it.
There is.
But for some reason, I was telling you this earlier, Holly, when I grew up, like my sister and I would go down into the basement at my grandparents' house on Christmas and watch it. I think it must have been like on TV or something. And I
Uh-huh.
don't know how my family didn't realize like some of the bad
Yeah.
words and stuff in the movie because like we were very, very much not allowed to watch anything with bad words.
Yep.
But for some reason, we were allowed to watch that movie, and I just love the scene with the brother in the snow suit that he can't
Yeah.
walk, and it just cracks me up every time. I don't know, it's very foolish, but I like it, and I will
It's
watch it
great.
every year. But, the first time I did watch that with my daughter a few years ago, I was like, "Oh, I forgot about this."
It's so funny as I've rewatched some old movies with my son, I'm just like, "What? How was I allowed to watch this? I don't
Yeah.
understand." Yeah,
I think
but
sometimes we watch the TV versions, which were slightly edited more than
that's
the
true, I
actual
never thought
movie.
about that because
Yeah.
we didn't own a lot of those movies, so we were getting it all from TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that makes sense. Well, I'm glad that you said that because I I don't get the hype over that movie, and I
Okay.
think it's because I didn't watch it as a child, so there's no nostalgia for me. I only watched it, like, a year or 2 ago,
Oh,
and
yeah.
as I'm watching it, I'm like, "How do people like this?" But I do love the scene with the kids in the snowsuits.
Yeah.
That is really funny
Yeah.
because that's real life, and I remember being like that as a kid. Being like, "How am I gonna make a snowman and when I can't even bend over?" Like
Oh, man. All right, so
So,
another
okay.
thing is that if you wanna tell us about your favorite Christmas movie or
Yeah.
answer these questions, like, we always talk about this in the Facebook group, so come on in, come join us, and, there should be some more episodes coming up over the next few weeks. We haven't fully decided if we're gonna do an episode the week of Christmas, so just, hey, keep your ears
Yeah.
tuned, but, I hope that everybody has an awesome week, and we will talk to you next time. Thanks for joining us on the Christian Woman Leadership Podcast. Do you want to become a more confident leader? Then make sure to grab the Confident Leader Manifesto. This is a resource that Holly and I developed just for you, and I share all about it in episode 6, Leading with Confidence. You can get the manifesto for yourself at estherlittlefield.com/confident. And that's confident with a T. Now, don't forget, your leadership matters, and it's time for you to embrace your gifts and lead with confidence. Okay, I gotta pause because I gotta take a drink of water.
Okay. Oh, la, 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 la.
Okay.
And yeah, so
You agree with me, Holly.
I I do. I had a thought, and then the moment I opened my mouth, it went away. Okay, I'm just gonna move on.
Let's say that over again.
One of the things, if that's the lens you're using, oh my gosh. So I'm not sure where you ended.
I'll pick up. Okay.
Okay. Bye.